Just because I pointed out in a meeting that the intern's proposal had errors that could cost the company $1 million, he felt humiliated and ran crying to the CEO, my fiancée, Victoria Vance. Without a second thought, she stormed into my office, furious. "Couldn't you have told him privately?" she demanded. "Ethan's young and sensitive. Why embarrass him in front of everyone? Don't forget his father is a major shareholder." Then she gave me two options: promote Ethan Hayes with a raise, make me his assistant, and then she would agree to go public with our relationship. Keep being so arrogant, and we break up. She smirked, clearly expecting me to choose the first option, but I stayed calm and said, "Sorry, I choose option 2. I'll resign voluntarily. And I wish you and Ethan all the best." "Do you even know what you're saying?" Victoria shot up from her desk and rushed over, losing her usual composure for the first time. I repeated firmly, "I resign. We're finished." Ignoring her protests, I started packing my things. I'd been with the company since it was founded. This office had been mine for years. I carefully packed my thermos, blanket, and other personal items into a box, then organized my work files, projects I was currently managing. Many clients worked with us specifically because of me, but now I wouldn't be able to see them through. Victoria watched me closely, her tone cold. "Sincere, you're 34. It wasn't easy getting to VP. The market is tough. Are you really going to be this stubborn?" I didn't respond. Instead, I printed my resignation letter and signed it. Victoria's brow furrowed deeper. Just then, Ethan, the intern, walked in carrying coffee. His eyes were red-rimmed and watery. "Miss Vance? Is Mr. Clark mad at me? Is he trying to force me out by resigning?" "Please, don't make things difficult," Ethan pleaded. Any hesitation in Victoria vanished. Her displeasure turned toward me. "Sincere, I gave you a way out. Are you really going to walk away like this? Do you think the company can't function without you? Fine. Your resignation is approved." She snatched the letter from me, signed it quickly, and threw it on my desk. Then, grabbing Ethan's arm, she left without a glance back. Seeing her, coldness, bitterness welled up inside me. Victoria and I met in college. Back then, my family was poor, and I was often the target of mockery. Victoria was the only one who defended me, inviting me to eat with her, pursuing me gently. After graduation, we started the company together, enduring the hardest times side by side. We agreed to marry once things were stable. But everything changed when Ethan's father, Arthur Hayes, invested and became a major shareholder. Arthur placed Ethan in the company as an intern. Ethan was careless, frequently making mistakes. Whenever I pointed them out, Victoria warned me not to bully him. I argued it was about the company's future, but she always protected Ethan. Now, just for pointing out Ethan's mistakes in a meeting, Victoria was using our relationship to push me out. I should have let go long ago. After leaving the company, I got a call from HR at Dragon Holdings, a top firm in the industry. "Mr. Clark, I heard you resigned. Sorry to intrude, but we'd like to invite you to join us. We hope you'll consider it." Over the years, many companies tried to poach me, but I stayed loyal to Victoria and our company. Now I was left with nothing. They offered me a package triple my previous salary. I finally agreed to meet them the next day. Returning to the home Victoria and I shared, I planned to pack and leave immediately. But when I opened the door, I found Victoria in the kitchen, standing behind Ethan with a gentle smile, tying an apron for him. "Miss Vance, just stand aside and relax. The meal I'm making today will suit your taste perfectly," Ethan joked. "Oh, really?" "I have a very picky palate," Victoria teased back. They bantered like an intimate couple, completely oblivious to my presence. When Victoria noticed me, her smile vanished instantly. "Cool, Ethan, just make enough for the two of us," she said coldly. "Someone's feeling ambitious today. I'm sure he wouldn't dare eat at home." She was clearly taking a jab at me. I ignored her and bent down to change my shoes. Victoria frowned, then lifted her chin. "Sincere, since you're back, you must realize you were wrong. Why are you standing there like a statue? Go apologize to Ethan and earn his forgiveness. I can overlook this morning's incident and keep your position for you. Seeing her high and mighty attitude, I felt nothing but coldness. No matter how good things are between two people, eventually they can fall apart. I said nothing and walked past her toward the balcony to gather some clothes. Victoria, feeling slighted by my silence, opened her mouth to speak. Just then, Ethan walked over carrying a bowl of soup. He deliberately bumped into me, feigning pain, and then dramatically fell, splashing soup all over himself. "Ah, it's hot, Sincere, even if you resent me." "Do you really have to do this?" Ethan whimpered, lying on the floor and clutching his reddened hand, tears streaming down his face. This was his usual tactic, trying to drive a wedge between Victoria and me. At the office, he'd pretend to work late, complain I was overworking him, or splash water on himself and accuse me of losing my temper. Usually, I'd just ignore him, but this time, I wasn't going to let him get away with it. If he wanted to accuse me of bullying, fine, he'd get what he wished for. I grabbed a plate from the table, and before Ethan could get up, I dumped the stir-fry he'd just cooked all over him. Greasy sauce dripped from his hair. Ethan screamed, tears spurting as Victoria rushed over, shoving me aside, roaring in fury. "Sincere! Are you crazy? Why do you always have to pick on Ethan? You disappoint me so much," I smirked. Disappointed? Perfect timing to cut all ties forever. Victoria flushed red with anger, momentarily speechless. Then Ethan started sobbing harder. All she could do was take him to the hospital. When the living room door slammed shut and the apartment finally fell silent, I let out a breath, feeling some of my obsession slowly fade. Bitterly, I smiled, grabbed my suitcase, and walked out. Victoria, we're truly finished. I went back to my old bachelor pad, the place I hadn't really lived in since buying and fixing it up because I prioritized being close to her. Just as I was about to call a cleaning service, Victoria's call came through. I braced for her to yell, but her voice was surprisingly gentle. "Sincere, stop this nonsense. Ethan is kind. He won't hold what you did today against you. Rest at home this afternoon. Tomorrow go to the company and be Ethan's assistant. Help him oversee the projects. We'll get married in 3 days. That should satisfy you, right?" Hearing her say, "get married," didn't excite me. It was ironic. For years, I'd pushed to move forward with our wedding plans, but Victoria always found a reason to delay. Now she finally agreed, but only for another man's sake. I gave a sarcastic smirk, about to reply when Ethan's whining voice interrupted from the other end. "Forget it, Miss Vance. If Mr. Clark becomes my assistant, he'll just pick on me even more. I wouldn't dare. I'm too stupid to compete with him." "Don't worry, Ethan," Victoria soothed him softly, her tone like she was comforting a boyfriend. "Sincere won't bully you again." I frowned, disgusted, and cut. "In to make me his assistant? Is he even qualified? If Ethan's so brilliant, why does he need an assistant? He should be able to finish the projects himself." Victoria paused, then snapped angrily. "Are you trying to be difficult? I've already agreed to marry you. What more do you want? You don't appreciate the chance I'm giving you. Don't regret this." With that, she hung up. I ignored it and continued arranging for the cleaning service. Later, I was lounging on the sofa, scrolling through industry news, when Ethan suddenly sent me a video call request. I answered. Ethan was lounging, back in Victoria's CEO chair, legs crossed, looking smug as he panned the camera around the office. "Sincere, the CEO asked me to work overtime in her office. She even got me water. Have you ever been treated this well?" Victoria was notoriously particular about cleanliness and hated anyone touching things in her office. Even I wasn't allowed in without permission. Clearly, Ethan was the exception. I stayed silent. Ethan gloated. "She's already transferred all the projects you handled to me, made me acting VP, taking over your responsibilities. You're destined to be discarded," I scoffed. "Is that so? Well, you'd better work hard then. Try to drive your CEO's company into bankruptcy sooner rather than later, you son of a—" Ethan was about to curse when a door opened on his end and the video call disconnected. I shook my head, ironically, thinking if Victoria really trusted Ethan with all those projects, the company was doomed. The next morning, I headed to Dragon Holdings for my meeting and agreed to start soon. As I was leaving, I got several notifications about severed family. Link connections on various apps. When Victoria and I were close, many of our apps were linked. We considered ourselves inseparable. Apparently, Victoria had just come home and realized I'd moved out. No phone call, just unilateral disconnection. I didn't need to guess how angry she was. But it wasn't my problem anymore. For the next 2 days, I focused on my new job. Victoria didn't contact me. Instead, she updated her social media constantly, posts about being with Ethan, even changing our couple profile pictures on some platforms to plain black. I knew she was waiting for me to make the first move, but I didn't care. Then, on the key third evening, I came home to find a cardboard box by my door labeled "For Sincere Clark." I brought it inside and opened it. Inside were mementos from my time with Victoria, the love letter she wrote when she first confessed in college, matching accessories she bought for us, photos from trips, and a lipstick-stained page marking our first kiss. Looking at the items, memories flooded back, but in the end, we had drifted apart. I threw the keepsakes one by one into a metal basin and lit them on fire. Watching the flames consume our past, I felt strangely calm. Just then, the door slammed open and Victoria rushed in. Ignoring the risk of burns, she grabbed the burning photos and desperately slapped at the flames. Her voice was sharp and anxious. "Sincere! What are you doing burning these things?" Victoria struggled to extinguish the fire, her hands blistering. Tears welled in her eyes as she glared at me. "Have you forgotten what these mean to us?" "How could you burn them?" I answered calmly. "Didn't you send these over for me to deal with? They're useless now. Burning them is fine." Victoria stared at me, shocked by my calmness. After a long pause, she finally spoke helplessly. "All right, don't be angry anymore, I admit." Victoria tried to justify Ethan's mistakes at the company by saying it was for the greater good. She told me the real reason she wanted me to apologize was because Ethan was Mr. Hayes' son. She said, "I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. Come back as VP on the same level as Ethan. Just try not to interfere in his matters from now on. How about that?" I looked at her silently, thinking the whole situation was ridiculous. Then she added, "But there's one condition. You have to apologize to Ethan. After all, you did physically attack him last time. As long as he forgives you, you can come back." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Victoria, you really think too highly of yourself. Did I ever say I wanted to come back and apologize to Ethan? Frankly, he doesn't deserve it." Her face fell. She stood up abruptly, furious, and slammed the door behind her. The next morning, I arrived at Dragon Holdings. As I approached the office, I saw Victoria and Ethan walking together, chatting and laughing. Ethan said, "Do well on this project. And if you land it, I'll arrange your promotion." Victoria smiled warmly. "Monsieur Vance, you're so good to me." When Victoria saw me, her expression immediately turned cold. "Sincere, what are you doing here? Isn't it obvious Mr. Clark was too embarrassed to beg you at the office, so he sent you here to intercept me and try to get his job back?" Ethan smirked as he said it. Victoria understood immediately. Her face stayed cold but softened just a bit. She huffed. "I gave you a way out yesterday and you refused. Now you're here pestering me." She turned to me. "Sincere, I see you're becoming more clueless by the day. Since you're already here, go ahead and apologize to Ethan now." Lifting her chin slightly, she put on her usual proud CEO demeanor. Ethan looked at me triumphantly, trying to act magnanimous. "Oh, come on, forget it. As long as Mr. Clark doesn't make things difficult for me, we can work together just fine, as equals." "No, he must apologize," Victoria said coldly, shooting me a sharp glance. Watching their coordinated act, I felt utterly speechless. Who said I'm going to apologize? And I have no intention of returning to your company. Could you please get out of my way, Victoria? Haven't I caused enough trouble? Victoria looked disappointed, but Ethan smirked like he had me figured out. "Oh, I get it. Mr. Clark must feel unbalanced because all his original projects were given to me. But Ms. Vance, he walked off the job, someone had to take over. How about this? From now on, Mr. Clark gets first pick of projects, and I'll take what's left. That should be fair, right? Victoria's gaze toward me grew colder, filled with disgust, as if I was pushing my luck. But I felt helpless. How could Ethan be so confident when his competence was questionable? Wasn't Victoria afraid he'd mess things up? Whatever, not my problem. I shook my head, said nothing, and turned to leave. Victoria was about to scold me when her phone rang. Even without speakerphone, I heard the voice clearly. Ms. Vance, bad news. The proposal submitted yesterday has serious flaws. The client suffered huge losses and now they're going to sue the company. The person responsible? Ethan Hayes. Victoria's face went pale. She whipped her head to look at Ethan, eyes sharp. Ethan recoiled in fear. Ms. Vance, there must be some misunderstanding. Ethan stammered, then pointed at me. These projects were all taken over from Sincere. He's responsible too, I shot back. Don't think you can dump this mess on me just because I resigned. Don't even try. To prove his innocence, Ethan started playing the victim again, his voice trembling. Miss Vance, I just took over Sincere's projects. He must have set me up. Don't you trust me? Seeing his pitiful act, Victoria's suspicious eyes softened. She frowned at me, then said softly to Ethan, All right, let's go back to the company and deal with this. Of course, I trust you. If Sincere did this, I will make him take responsibility. Before leaving, Victoria gave me a deep, unreadable look. Ethan followed her out, curling his lip into a triumphant smirk as he taunted, See, Sincere? No matter what, Victoria will always believe me. I glanced at him like he was a fool, then walked past and entered the elevator. I never expected so much drama just from coming to work. That afternoon, a former colleague gave me updates on Victoria's company, since I had handled the projects. Before, the client trusted us and never questioned much. But with Ethan in charge, problems piled up. Serious financial losses, angry clients, and now lawsuits. The client was furious they hadn't been told the project lead changed, and they held Victoria's company legally responsible. Victoria was frantic. Ms. Vance, I honestly didn't know small issues could snowball like this. I was wrong. I really was. What do we do now? Maybe I should apologize to the client. Mrs. Vance, please don't ignore me. My heart is breaking. Unbeknownst to us, this conversation had been secretly recorded by a colleague passing by Victoria's office. When Victoria finally discovered Ethan was the real culprit and had made some seriously basic mistakes, she exploded with fury for the first time. She publicly threw the rejected proposal documents in Ethan's face. Ethan was stunned. He played the tearful victim again, but this time Victoria wasn't buying it. She went straight back to her office, Ethan trailing behind, apologizing profusely, but Victoria wasn't having it. She said, Before, whenever I found his mistakes and corrected them, I told you to be more tolerant. Now that money's involved, no one's asking anyone to be magnanimous. I just resent Ethan for not being able to handle even the simplest tasks. Ethan, when Sincere pointed out your attitude problems, I defended you. I never knew you were this incompetent. Now I don't want to see you here. Never scolded like that before, Ethan felt humiliated and stormed out. The recording ended. Thought helplessly, maybe this is karma. You reap what you sow. I assumed the matter would be over once the payment was made, but I was wrong. That evening, I got home and Victoria was waiting at my door. Sincere, you're back, she said, her tone unusually polite. I gave a faint, huh? What are you here for? I asked. Seeing my distant attitude, a flicker of disappointment crossed Victoria's face. She followed me into the living room and sat down on the sofa, her voice soft but heavy with regret. Sincere, you've heard about what's happening with the company, right? I heard the client's representative is someone you know personally. Could you maybe reach out to them? Ask them to go easy on us, not take this to court. She looked at me with tired eyes. I've looked into everything. It was Ethan's fault. I was quiet for a moment, surprised to hear her admit that. I knew she'd scolded him earlier, that day, but hearing it from her so plainly was new. You used to say Ethan was careless, and that you were managing risks for the company. I thought you were just being too harsh and maybe hurting his pride, but I never thought he could be this incompetent." She nodded, clearly weighed down by the whole mess. I understood she wanted me to help smooth things over with the client and maybe reduce the damage. But my relationship with the client was strictly professional. They trusted me because I took my work seriously. Ethan's careless proposal had cost them a lot and hurt their reputation. Honestly, I wasn't willing to put my years of hard-earned credibility on the line to cover for him. "I'm sorry, Victoria, but I can't help with this," I said bluntly. Her face tightened. She suddenly got up and sat next to me, reaching out to take my hand. "Sincere, I'm not asking you as the CEO. I'm asking you as your girlfriend. We've been together for so long. The company is in trouble. Can't you just help me this once?" Her eyes were glassy with tears, pleading. I gently pushed her hand away. "Victoria, have you forgotten? We already broke up." She choked, speechless for a moment. Then hoarsely she said, "Sincere, I always thought this was just a cold war between us. I never thought you were serious about breaking up." I looked at her, the woman I'd loved for years, and somehow she felt like a stranger now. "I never planned to actually fire you," she said quickly. "Last time I was favoring Ethan only because he's the shareholder's son. There were no feelings involved." "Why do you have to make everything so complicated?" I almost laughed. "Complicated? Victoria, do you remember the promises we made when we started the company? You said we'd get married once things settled down. You said you wouldn't marry anyone else in this life, that I was the person you loved most in the world." She looked away, silent. "But then, you refused to go public with us. You never acknowledged me as your boyfriend. And marriage? That was off the table." She opened her mouth to say something, but stopped. Finally, her voice cracked. "Sincere, please. Help me this once, and I promise we'll get married. Immediately. Just this once." I stayed quiet, watching her tears fall. For someone so proud, this was a rare moment of vulnerability. "I'm sorry for bothering you," she whispered, then hurried to leave. Once the door closed, I was alone in the apartment, sighing deeply. How had two people who were once so close ended up like this? But whatever happened, there was no turning back now. 2 days later, I heard Victoria had paid the client's compensation and demoted Ethan back to an intern, basically firing him from any real responsibility. The office atmosphere turned tense. No one dared to push their luck. Ethan tried a few times to win Victoria over, but she stayed cold. If he wasn't the shareholder's son, he'd probably be out the door by now. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Soon, the company faced another lawsuit. Every project Ethan had taken on recently had issues. Clients came demanding fixes. The whole scandal spread across the industry. Potential deals slipped away. The shareholders were furious. Leading the charge was Ethan's own father, Arthur Hayes. In front of everyone, Arthur tore into Victoria. "Miss you, Vance, how exactly are you running this company? How many lawsuits can you rack up in just a few days? All from basic mistakes. What have you been doing all these years? You expect me to cover these losses with my money?" he shouted, pointing right in her face for what felt like forever. Victoria didn't get a chance to defend herself, and Ethan just stayed quiet, no pride or responsibility in sight. For someone as proud as Victoria, this was the first time she'd been treated like this. Finally, a colleague couldn't stand it and stepped in, explaining what really happened. Arthur dragged Ethan out and the madness ended. A former colleague messaged me privately afterward. "Mr. Clark, I saw Miss Vance crying secretly after all that. Ethan Hayes is useless. He didn't say a word to defend her. Miss Vance's trust in him is completely gone." I didn't know what to say. Victoria must be regretting her choices deeply. Putting all this aside, my mom called and asked when Victoria and I were getting married. She'd asked 100 times before, but this time I told her we'd broken up. She was surprised, but didn't push, didn't want to upset me. The next day, she sent me the contact info of a young woman. "Sincere, this girl is 5 years younger than you, Mrs. Davis's daughter from next door. Why don't you get in touch?" It's always good to make new friends. Not wanting to worry my mom, I agreed and messaged her. Her name was Isabel Davis. She lived in the same complex, just across from me. She invited me out for a walk. With nothing better to do, I changed into casual clothes and went downstairs. Isabel was charming, curious, looking around like she was new to the area. There was something about her. She reminded me of college-aged Victoria, young and full of life. "Are you Sincere Clark?" she asked, coming right up to me. I nodded. We started walking and chatting easily about the neighborhood and local spots. After about half an hour as we were heading back, I heard the sharp click of heels behind us. I turned and saw Victoria. Her eyes were red, watching us silently. "Sincere?" she called out hoarsely, her gaze fixed on me. Isabel glanced at me for a moment, then excused herself politely without asking any questions. I watched as Victoria slowly walked over, step by step, and then said quietly, "Who is she? Your girlfriend?" There was something pleading in her voice. I didn't answer her question right away. Instead, I asked her, "Is there something you need?" Victoria looked at me with those sad eyes like she genuinely missed me. "I haven't slept a single night since you've been gone. I fired Ethan Hayes. Can we just start over? Please? By the way, the company's in serious cash flow trouble, and I want to downsize. You know the employees better than anyone. Could you handle it?" Her eyes were full of hope, the same way they used to be. That girl from before, the Victoria I once knew, was still there, stubborn as ever. She believed if I refused, she would keep pushing. I realized she must have made up her mind today after all these days of silence. But I wasn't going back, not now. "We're not right for each other, Victoria." "Let it go," I said calmly. I had a good career now, a peaceful personal life, so much better than before. But she wouldn't give up. "Sincere, I don't believe you can just let me go like this. Nothing happened between Ethan and me, I swear. I've admitted my mistake. Just say the word, and we can be like before. Why are you like this?" I stayed silent. Then she burst into tears, gripping my hand tightly. For the first time, she pleaded, "Please, Sincere, don't be like this. Do you think I'm lying? Let's go right now. When the city hall opens, we'll get married, okay? Please." Her persistence broke my patience. I pulled my hand away and said coldly, "That's enough, Victoria. Let's part amicably. Don't make me start resenting you." And with that, I walked upstairs alone. That night, Victoria waited downstairs all night. I didn't sleep well either. The next day, Isabel and I had plans to see a movie. Just as we sat down, I realized Victoria was in the seat next to me. "Sincere, what a coincidence." She smiled nervously. I frowned. Victoria was following me. It disgusted me. "Wasn't I clear yesterday? We can't get back together." "But I want to pursue you again, Sincere," she said, like she was trying to remind me of something. "Don't forget, I was the one who pursued you first. Remember college? When I was bullied and you stepped in to help? Later, I always chose the same classes, sat next to you, started conversations, even asked you out. You said no at first, but eventually, my persistence won you over." Back then, Victoria wasn't as cold and distant as she is now. She had that vibrant energy of youth, which is why I felt something deeply for her. But that feeling had long faded. The situation might have been similar, but the people had changed. "Victoria, I already have a girlfriend," I said coolly, taking Isabel's hand to make my point clear. Isabel glanced at Victoria for a moment, then smiled faintly and rested her head on my shoulder. "Ma'am, Sincere and I are engaged. When we get married, you should come celebrate with us, okay?" That one sentence broke Victoria's composure completely. Right as the movie started, she suddenly stood up and shouted, "Sincere, you're going to marry her? I forbid you! I forbid it!" Her voice echoed through the theater, causing disgruntled murmurs. Staff quickly came to escort her out. Once the theater quieted down, Isabel leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Have you really let go?" I looked into her sparkling eyes and nodded. 2 days later, I was at work when I suddenly got an email, a job offer from Victoria. She was offering me the general manager position, tripling my salary and giving me 5% equity in the company. 2 minutes later, she sent a message. You got the offer, right? Can you start tomorrow? She sounded like she wasn't even asking. She assumed I wouldn't refuse such a generous offer. After all, she once said I was getting older, that the job market was tough, and that I couldn't find a good job without her. But she was wrong. Big companies were interested in me. I already had a job. After replying, I went back to work. Around lunchtime, Victoria bombarded me with messages. First, she accused me of lying, that it was impossible to find a job so quickly. Then she insisted I must have joined some low-tier company and was wasting my talent. Finally, she demanded to know where my new company was. I didn't reply for a long time. When I left work that evening, Victoria was waiting at the company entrance, staring at me. She came up immediately. I never expected you to join Dragon Holdings, so you were planning to jump ship all along? Colleagues glanced over, curious. I frowned and pulled Victoria aside to a less crowded spot. What do you want, Victoria? I've told you many times, we're over. Don't you feel even a little bit guilty? How can you be so heartless? She demanded, her voice breaking into sobs. I was tired of arguing. If all you have are these pointless complaints every time, I don't want to waste my time listening. There are plenty of men in the world, Victoria. You can find Ethan. He's suitable for you. Whenever Ethan cried, you'd feel sorry for him. That's how couples work. Feeling sorry for someone is the beginning of love. Victoria tried to argue, but just then, someone appeared from the side holding a large bouquet of roses. It was Ethan, dressed in a white suit, walking quickly toward Victoria. Victoria, I've been looking everywhere for you. Finally found you. Roses for you, Ethan said, smiling and waiting for her to be moved, but Victoria's face twisted with disgust. Get lost. I told you never to let me see you again. Don't you understand? Ethan's smile faltered, but he forced it back on. Victoria, don't be mad. You don't know. I snuck out of the house after what happened last time. My dad wouldn't let me leave, but I missed you. I felt I wronged you. I came to apologize. If you're still mad, I don't know what to do. He tried to squeeze out a few tears and pulled out a love letter. All my thoughts about you these past few days are written here. I had no interest in their drama and turned to leave. But Victoria followed Ethan. Seeing that, he grabbed her hand, pleading, Victoria, you can't do this to me. Look inside. It's all my heartfelt words. He took the letter out, unfolded, it showing her. Victoria shook him off impatiently, but when her eyes landed on the letter, her expression turned colder. Ethan, go home and learn how to write properly before you come back. It's full of typos. How can you even hold a job? She tore the letter into pieces and threw it in his face. Humiliated and angry, Ethan confronted her, and they started fighting. I ended up calling the police. Later, I accidentally learned Ethan wasn't even his father's acknowledged heir. His mother was a bar hostess, and his family never valued him. That's why he kept pestering Victoria, hoping to latch onto her and finally hold his head high. But in the end, he got nothing. After that incident, I consciously avoided Victoria and grew closer to Isabel. 3 months later, Isabel and I got married. On the same day, Victoria's company declared bankruptcy. 5 years later, I started my own company and built a happy, successful life. Victoria contacted me a few more times over those years, wanting to go back to how things were. But I refused, every time. I heard she tried starting other businesses, but they all failed. Eventually, she left the city and went back to her hometown. I stopped following her news. Life is short. I just want to live each day fully, with the people who truly matter.